The many interviews that the two of us have led over decades have also served to promote understanding of deeper human values and secular ethics. This can help people become better and more conscious human beings. But our common path is this: more mindfulness towards all life, including animals and plants. On our last television broadcast, we discussed the global destruction of the environment, and I said that I sometimes have the feeling that the earth would be better off without people. 이건 맞는 말이죠. 네, 지구는 인간이 없으면은 훨씬 나은 곳이 되겠죠. Every day, we drive 150 species of plants and animals to extinction, expand the deserts by 50,000 hectares, and spew 150 million metric tons of greenhouse gases into the air. Essentially, we're fighting a World War III against nature. Religions have not been able to stop this development. 2016 was the warmest year on record. The Himalayan glaciers and the polar ice caps are melting. What can secular ethics accomplish in these circumstances? What are the core tenets of secular ethics? Mindfulness, education, respect, tolerance, caring, and nonviolence. We have achieved the great material advances over the past century. That was generally positive. But those material advances are also what has led to the environment's current destruction. Now, in the 21st century, we need to learn, cultivate, and apply more inner values on all levels. A realistic look at the problems of our time, some of which you just listed, shows very clearly that we must find a sustainable and universal entry point to questions of ethics, inner values, and personal integrity. An entry point that will ultimately allow us to transcend cultural, ethnic, and religious differences. The principle of global responsibility is a key element of my concept of secular ethics. You're right, it comes down to the survival of our species. For me, the search for a truly sustainable and universal path is the basis for developing secular ethics. If all 7 billion humans first considered what unites them and not what divides them, they would have less stress and less anger. We should learn that we are all friends. As I see it, I don't have many enemies. Only people I have met yet. The young people of today have many more opportunities to get to know each other globally, and they should take advantage of them to work on improving on the world. Compassion and love have been neglected far too much in education. We can and must change that now. There are two viewpoints on human nature. One believes that humans are naturally violent, inconsiderate, and aggressive. The other believes that we have a natural tendency towards benevolence, harmony, and a peaceful life. I subscribe to the second viewpoint. 난 첫 번째인데. That is why, in my opinion, ethics are not a collection of commandments and prohibitions to abide by, but a natural inner offering that can bring happiness and satisfaction to ourselves and others. I am personally driven by the simple desire to contribute to the greater good of humankind and all living creatures. Ethical education starting around age of 14 is more important than religion. Education changes everything. Human beings are capable of learning. In Germany, this was demonstrated by the fall of the Berlin Wall, an unforgettable experience for me, or the policies of the European Union after World War II. Today, countries that were once enemies in wartime are building a peaceful Europe together. The EU even received the Nobel Peace Prize for that, quite rightly. 뭐 되게 읽기 쉽고 쭉쭉 넘어가네요. 근데 뭐 여기도 별건 없는 것 같다. 내가 찾는 건 어느 책에 있을까? 다음에 그 오는 시뮬레이션 책에는 좀 해답이 있길 바랄게요. 지금 수비학 책도 시켜놨거든요. Of the 6 billion believers in the world, there are many, especially in Europe, who do not take their own religions seriously. In Christianity, we call them Christians by baptismal certificate. certificate만 땄다. Unfortunately, the 6 billion believers in the world include many corrupt people who only pursue their own interests. You're right, my dear friend. The 21st century must be shaped by inner values. Then our century will become the century of peace and dialogue. However, there won't be external peace until there is more inner peace. That applies to all current conflicts. In Ukraine, in the Middle East, in Afghanistan. 이거 언제 썼어? 언제 썼는데 우크라이나가 나오는 거지? 우크라이나가 아니 뭐지? 우크라이나 전쟁이 언제 시작했지? 이 책 2017년 전에 나온 것 같은데. 뭐 아무튼 Before there is external disarmament, there must be inner disarmament. Almost everywhere, religious fundamentalism is one of the causes of war. We know full well today that risking nuclear war would be tantamount to suicide. That alone shows that we are all interdependent and that we need to develop secular ethics in a globalized world. In order to achieve worldwide secular ethics, of course, we first need worldwide research. On that point, I agree with many academics, particularly brain researchers, neuropsychologists, and educators. Modern neurobiology research suggests that altruistic and less egotistical behavior pays off for everyone. People don't necessarily have to act egotistically. They can also act altruistically, grasp things that are foreign to them, and focus on other people's well-being. But what will require even more education? The more strongly people believe that other people also act altruistically, the more likely they act that way themselves. Altruism simply makes us happier. In other words, happiness is not just a matter of good luck. It's an ability that all people hold within themselves. Everyone can be or become happy. Modern science has shown us which factors facilitate happiness and which factors prevent us from being happy. We can transform the factors that prevent our happiness step by step. That holds for individuals but also for society. The goal of secular ethics is to liberate us from both temporary and long-term suffering and to cultivate our ability to promote other people's pursuit of happiness as well. One aspect of compassion is being prepared to act spontaneously for the sake of others. To be sure, secular ethics requiring training of the heart, plenty of patience, and persistent effort. It's also clear that for secular ethics to be truly helpful, we need not only knowledge but action. After all, we often know what to do, but we don't know what we know. We are a strong advocate of modern brain research. Why is that? 이제 뇌에 대해서 나오네요. Our brain is an organ of learning. Neuropsychologists teaches us that neuropsychology teaches us that we can exercise our brains like muscles. So by deliberately absorbing goodness and beauty, we can positively influence our brains and overcome negativity. Using the power of our minds, we can change our brains for the better. Those are revolutionary advances. Thanks to those advances, we also know better that before that ethics, compassion, and social behavior are inborn traits, but religion is acquired. What questions do we ask ourselves in order to increase our compassion? Are we open-minded or narrow-minded? Have we considered the big picture or only aspects of it? Do we think and act holistically? Do we really take a long-term view of things or more of a short-term view? Are your actions really motivated by sincere compassion? Is our compassion restricted to our own families, friends, whom we can generally identify with? We need to think, and research. Essentially, ethics is about our mental state and not our formal religious affiliation. We need to overcome our personal limitations and understand other people's point of view. 20 years ago, I was still laughed at for being interested in this kind of research. Today, it is receiving more and more recognition. Those who don't recognize altruism cannot understand how politics and markets really work. 아하, 아니 이런 거 있으면 좀 말을 해줘야 될 거 아니야. 어? 깜짝이야, 씨. Okay, Ukraine conflict, that means Eastern Europe needs Western Europe and Western Europe needs Eastern Europe. So talk to each other. Realize that today, in the age of globalization, we live in one world. Our new philosophy must be your interests are our interests. Fundamentalism is always harmful. Yesterday's concepts won't help us anymore, especially for children. We're the adults of tomorrow. Ethics are more important than religion. 지금 심지어 달라이라마도 트럼프를 반대하고 있어요. Does the practice of meditation have measurable biological effects? For a while now, Western researchers have been conducting neurological studies of Tibetans who have been meditating for a long time. To summarize the results briefly, meditation is good for physical and psychological health, for satisfaction and well-being. That has also been my personal experience. How important is happiness for the development of a secularized ethics? 이 시큘러라는 말을 되게 좋아하네. 속세. Well, all 7 billion people want to be happy, and we have the right to be. For we all live on the same planet, breathe the same air, and eat from the same soil. Likewise, my future always depends on other people, and other people's futures depend on mine. The climate catastrophe we are facing reminds us of this connection. Which of us could live alone in the desert? I ask that question to audiences at my talks all around the world. If we encounter someone in the solitude of the desert, the last thing we would ask in their is their religion or nationality. If I am alone in the desert, it doesn't much matter that I'm His Holiness the Dalai Lama. It wouldn't help me whatsoever. Needless to say, I make mistakes too. I eat too many sweets, for instance, so I'm in a danger of being reincarnated as a bee. 근데 단 거를 너무 많이 먹어서 다음에 벌로 환생할 가능성이 있대. I'm not a god. I'm just one person out of more than 7 billion. That's also why I never feel lonely. As a human being, my first ambition is to help other people. That's what true friendship and humanity are about, relieving other people's suffering. And that's all why all religions preach love, tolerance, and forgiveness. Whether people accept religion is a question of their personal attitudes and decisions. The goal of all religions is to make us better and happier people. That's why we should have respect and appreciation for each other. That also creates mutual harmony. My Muslim friends tell me that violent Muslims aren't real Muslims. Weapons cannot create true peace anywhere in the world. I find wars in the name of religion difficult to stomach. Neither can I understand why Germany and France are among the biggest arms exporters in the world. Weapons lead to murder and homicide. Without weapons, wars couldn't be waged. 이건 저도 같은 생각이에요. 저는 그래서 미국에서도 총기를 한 번도 소지해 본 적이 없죠. Can people become happy at all in the face of death? 죽을 때 행복할 수 있느냐? That is certainly a fascinating question as well as a central one. There are people who do not want to know that they will die. And there are people who have forgotten that they are alive. Compassion for ourselves means turning our attention to death in order to enrich our lives. If we accept death as part of life, we protect ourselves from frittering away our time with meaningless distractions. Watching the sunset, we can ask ourselves, will I live to see the sunrise again tomorrow morning? But we can also ask ourselves, what if death is only a transitional stage and our spirit will pass through other states of being in the future? By asking these questions, we can learn to take a selfless and a peaceful attitude and let go of both our possessions and what we love. A selfless and detached attitude is the best and smartest preparation for death. Life is short. If we succumb to negative emotions, we squander it. Whenever I feel a certain sense of frustration or too much sadness, I meditate on these lines by Shantideva, an Indian Buddhist master from the 7th century. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain, to dispel the mysteries of the world. When I contemplate these lines, my feeling of frustration flies away. Suffering can provide real training for life. You can see that if you look at the life stories of prominent people. 오늘 다 읽겠는데요? What can each of us do for a better and more peaceful world? All religions have the duty to guide people to internal and external peace. If we want to make this world a better place, we need to become better people ourselves. There isn't a convenient path. We must start by seeing the humanity in our enemies. In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus said, "Love thine enemy." It's in our own interest for us to do everything we can for the well-being of all living creatures. To do that, we need to train our spirits and educate our hearts. After 1945, the EU chose the right path of cooperation between former enemies. enemies became friends. That was only possible because millions of people pursued that path deliberately. NATO could move its headquarters to Moscow. Then the Russians will see whether the West takes its friendship and its ideal of love thine enemy seriously. The true enemy is within us and not outside. External hostilities aren't permanent, and neither are those between China and Tibet. If you respect your enemies, they might become your friends one day. Could the next Dalai Lama be a woman? You are for equal opportunity, aren't you? Why not? Real equality and equal opportunity between women and men are critical for a better world. This is another area where all religions have some catching up to do. It's a crucial aspect of secular ethics, and also a question of justice and compassion. Many women are ahead of us men in developing inner values. What do you mean by inner values? 송충이 어디서 자꾸 나타나는 거야? 하늘에서 떨어지나? 어? 하늘에서 떨어지는 거 말곤 답이 없는데. According to our biological nature, we are animals that thrive in an environment of compassion, caring, affection, and warm-heartedness. I'm thinking of my own mother. The essence of compassion is the desire to alleviate others' suffering and promote their well-being. Women are somewhat better than us men when it comes to developing their inner values such as benevolence, patience, forgiveness, generosity, and tolerance. Major problems such as wars and environmental destruction or wasting resources are primarily male problems. They are the result of indifference, but we all have a basic predisposition for developing inner values like awareness and mindfulness. I don't want to convert anyone, but I am mainly preoccupied by the desire to contribute to the good of humanity. You have been promoting the Buddhist ideal of mindfulness all around the world for a long time. Why is mindfulness so important in this day and age? Mindfulness is important whether a person is a believer or non-believer. That's immaterial. All of us are only people with the same emotions and the same sort of intelligence. Some of our emotions are very, very destructive. They destroy not only our peace of mind, but eventually our health as well. Some scientists have found that peace of mind is extremely important for health. According to those medical scientists, anger, hatred, and fear eat up to our immune systems. That is why having a quiet mind is so very important. 또 왔어. 뭐지? 어디서 나타나는 거야 도대체? As I always say, there are 7 billion human beings and all of them have the same potential. All of them are the same mentally, emotionally, and physically. So they all have the ability to use their intelligence properly. It always comes down to the clarity of mind. We should analyze what is useful for our health and what is harmful. Then we should sort out what we know. This is something healthy and there is something harmful. The same goes for our emotions. Some emotions are good for our health and our peace of mind, while others are very destructive. With clear knowledge, everyone can tell them apart. Then we'll develop the ability to reduce destructive emotions and increase constructive emotions. This, I believe, applies to all 7 billion people, both believers and atheists. I hope that with our many conversations, we make a small contribution towards promoting happiness and overcoming suffering. What is the essence of all religions? Love, there's no question. People who believe in God, the Creator, practice love. Many Christian brothers and sisters have really dedicated their lives to serving others, particularly poor people. All of us that comes out of the teaching of love that said there are big differences between religions' philosophies. In my opinion, these different philosophical views are simply different methods, different approaches for promoting love. The kernel of all religions is love. Loving our neighbor is more pleasant for all of us than hating what is different. We prefer other people to be generous as opposed to vicious. And who wouldn't rather be treated with tolerance, respect, and mercy than with being closed-mindedness, disrespect, and antagonism? I am deeply convinced that we can all develop our inner values, which don't contradict any religion, but which also, crucially, don't depend on any religion. I therefore hope that we come to more and more ethical awareness and thereby experience a transformation of values in the near future. I don't want to dictate any moral values. That wouldn't serve anyone. All true progress needs to be voluntary and freely chosen. That's the only way to achieve the happiness we're all striving for. But in light of the problems of our time, it is no longer enough to ground ethics in religious values. Rather, it is time to clear a new path aside from religion for our understanding of spirituality and ethics in the globalized world. I'm not a scientist, but since I have lived in exile, which as you see, also has its advantages, I have met scientists from all over the world. Physicists, biologists, cosmologists, psychologists, and even also neurobiologists and neuropsychologists. I have seen for myself that today happiness is in the research lab. Ethics is the study of happiness. That is gratifying for me. We can learn that happiness is the outcome of inner maturity. And I'm learning that there is much common ground between modern science and old religious values, such as conscious compassion, loving benevolence, and mindfulness. Science teaches us today that true happiness is not only possible, it is our birthright. So as science is opening up more and more to religion, religion is also opening up to science. Pope Benedict XVI was on the same page when he called for greater communication between faith and reason. Many thinkers and philosophers have long seen religions as more of an obstacle to the pursuit of knowledge, often rightly so, but today this relationship is changing for the better. The rise of computers and IT will continue to accelerate this change even further. In the age of globalization, tolerance has better prospects than ever. 100 years ago, humanity experienced the outbreak of World War I, which claimed 17 million lives, followed by 50 million dead in World War II. Do you believe humanity has learned from these disasters? Will the 21st century be the century of peace? Sure, I believe that people, especially Europeans, know the meaning of war. Many older people in Germany still remember quite clearly how destructive that was. The same goes for Japan. That is why I believe that both nations, Germany and Japan, as well as most people everywhere, oppose violence. I have had the opportunity to visit a large number of countries and meet people. Everywhere I go, I think the desire for peace is very clear. Take the Iraq War, for example. There were protests against it from Australia to the United States, but also in Germany and France. Now humanity seems to be maturing somewhat. The desire for peace and the rejection of violence are very strong. What is the most important goal for the younger generation in the future? I believe that both of us, dear friend, the generation of the 20th century, have created a lot of problems. Now let the generation of the 21st century solve these problems peacefully through dialogue. So the young generation is very important. The past is past. The 21st century is only 17 years old. The remaining 83 years are yet to come. There are many opportunities to create a better world, to bring about a change in thinking at the family level, the community level, the national level, or the international, global level, as I see it. We can achieve this primarily through education. Violent methods are outdated. 왜 자꾸 오는 거야? 어디서 오는 거야? 진짜 하늘에서 떨어지나? 아니, 하늘에서 떨어지면은 옆에 의자에 떨어질 수도 있는데 어떻게 나한테만 떨어지지? Violent methods are outdated. Representatives of the media, like yourself, but also teachers and parents, play critical roles in education and awareness. 뭔가 문제가 있는 것 같은데 시청자 수도 안 바뀌고 와이파이 터졌나? 터졌는데 배터리 왜 계속 달아? 모르겠다. In Berlin in fall 1989, ecstatic people lifted you onto the wall, which just had been opened up. You're carrying a candle and said, just as Germany is being reunited now, Tibet will someday be free. Do you still believe that? Certainly, all people strive for freedom. Of course, I cannot specify a date. We need patience. That is another part of secular ethics. When you think about the relationship between China and Tibet in the long run, are you optimistic? If so, why? Yes, I'm optimistic. Why? Look, we have lived side by side for 1,000 years. At times in the past, the relationship was very friendly. For instance, through marriage or for other reasons. And sometimes we would fight. In the 7th or 8th century, I think Tibet invaded China. The past is past. The future is more important. And I see a new development there. The Buddhist population in China proper is now over 400 million people. Many of those Chinese Buddhists are really showing genuine interest in Tibetan Buddhism, and many of them follow its teachings. Accordingly, many Chinese and Japanese Buddhists appreciate our knowledge. We have noticed that over the past 3 or 4 years, around 1,000 articles about Tibet have been written by Chinese authors in the Chinese language. All 1,000 articles fully support our approach. They take very critical stance towards their own government policy. In my opinion, there is a clear sign that many Chinese support our political objective. Over the past few years, I have met several thousand Chinese students, teachers, and business people, as well as intellectuals and writers. Many of them are really showing concern about Tibet and solidarity with us. Meanwhile, the top political leaders are becoming more realistic. Even communist leaders are now speaking favorably about Buddhism. That is something quite new, so things are changing. I am convinced that peace between China and Tibet is possible. After all, both are peoples have lived alongside one another largely in peace for over 2,000 years. I would like to help restore the state of affairs. Violence always causes more violence, as we have experienced in Iraq and the entire Middle East for decades. But peace is likewise possible in the Middle East and Ukraine. The problems everywhere were made by humans. Therefore, humans can also solve the problems. However, patience, forbearance, humility, and generosity are essential components of secular ethics. In my travels, I have found that the virtues of patience and contentment are more prominent in less developed countries, where material hardship is widespread than in materially rich countries. True patience requires great inner strength. There are three aspects of patience: patience towards those who cause us suffering, acceptance of suffering, and acceptance of reality. This patience leads to a process of transformation and growth. What is the current state of human rights in Tibet? 방송 문제가 있는 것 같은데? 시청자 수가 안 바뀌네. 껐다 킬까? 또 껐다 켜. 다시 껐다 킬게요.